Hello there lads, lasses, and everyone in between. Welcome to Anime in a Nutshell, and today, we're walking the wastelands of Fist of the North Star, a 1986 action film by Toyo Ashita. Let's get going. In a rustic world of verdant fields, beautiful mountains, and gorgeous plains, the world is at peace. The skies are blue and the ocean shines like an azure jewel. In the year 199X, the world was engulfed in flames. A global nuclear war destroyed most of the world and killed its inhabitants. Most of Earth is now a contaminated wasteland with relics of the old world in ruins. A constant thunderous gloom roars over craggy mountains with nuclear fallout raining everywhere. Much of humanity is now a pile of ashes. The souls of the dead wander around with nowhere to go. Humanity's survivors now fight over what little uncontaminated food and water supplies still remain. From the darkness, a young child of light emerges. Kinshido, a master of the deadly martial art Hakuto Shinken, is traveling with his fiancée Yuria in the middle of a barren wasteland. Yuria comments that the Badlands were once an ocean, but now no trace of life remains. Yuria longs for the once green world, wanting to see it teeming with life. A little while later, they are confronted by a gang led by Kinshido's former friend Shin, a master of the rival Nanto Seiken style. Shin approaches Kinshido, emphasizing how he loves the new world where the strong can take whatever they desire. Shin tries to grab Yuria, but Kinshido stops his former friend, only for him to attack. Shin spoils for a fight, only for Yuria to protest that the opposing stars can't fight. He goes on the offensive, attacking Kinshido in the air. Both exchange a single attack in the air, but Kinshido receives critical damage on his limbs with the Nanto prison butchering fist. Bloodied and beaten, Shin and his gang prepare to abduct Yuria, but not before he taunts Kinshido. He underscores two differences that make him better: desire and vengeance. He proclaims that he has been in love with Yuria for a long time. Shin continues to taunt Kinshido, engraving 7 wounds on Ken's chest, leaving him for dead and taking Yuria with him. While Yuria tells him what he wants to hear, she grieves for Kinshido and their love. She drops her last remaining memento, a pouch of seeds that she will use to repopulate the world with blooming flowers. Jogi, one of Kinshido's brother-in-training and the most devious among them, drags his body, throwing him down a deep chasm. To add insult to injury, he cracks a gigantic boulder to drop on him below. Meanwhile, Kinshido's eldest brother-in-training, Ryo, witnesses the fight but does not intervene, returning to his dojo. Here, he finds his sensei, Ryu Ken, meditating at the temple. Ryo challenges Ryu Ken's decision to choose Kinshido as the Hakuto Shinken successor over him. Ryo proceeds to tell his master that Kinshido is dead, even going so far as to destroy the statues of the Neo or benevolent Bright Kings. Ryu Ken berates his student, but he dies at the hand of his former student, proclaiming he will become the ruler of the new world. Humanity continues to suffer in this barren, desolate world. Only a few people travel the Badlands, only to encounter lawless people killing mercilessly for loot, murdering men, women, and children. Biker gangs pursue weaker denizens, Mad Max style. Meanwhile, a band of lawless bikers pursues children in a buggy for their supplies. The raiders salvage what they can from their supplies, planning to raid the village where they came from. They fight back a losing battle against big men trying to crush them under their heels. Somehow, their desire to live reaches a wanderer who punches buildings to the ground. The wanderer even had a building fall on top of him, only for it to become a minor nuisance. This reveals Kinshido, who slowly closes the gap. The gang attacks him, shooting a crossbow at his chest. Again, this proves to be a minor nuisance to Kinshido, who proceeds to crush the gang member's head with one hand. As Kinshido looks after the girl, he destroys everyone, obliterating life and limb with a single strike. Later on, Kinshido helps the kids named Bat and Lin, respectively. Meanwhile, more members of the Z gang with their leader Zed attack Kinshido's dwelling, attacking en masse. Kinshido immediately detects their presence, preparing to fight this powerful band of raiders. Kinshido obliterates the gang member one by one, each with a single punch. Kinshido gets closer, attacking Zed with all his might, liquefying the giant with his fists powered by Hakuto no Shinken. Later on, Kinshido cleans himself up and checks up on Lin, even giving her back her ability to speak. He also bequeaths her Yuria's flower seeds, asking her to plant the seeds. He leaves the settlement behind, wandering the world. Meanwhile, another Nanto Suchoken master named Rei is fighting another gang member, slicing his arms clean with his fists, looking for the man with 7 scars. In another locale, a gang carrying joggies bust oppress the locals. They try to tarnish Kenshido's name in the process, trying to draw him out. Rei finds the same goons, slicing them into ribbons. Rei and Kenshido meet during this fight, working together to save Rei's kidnapped sister Eri. Kenshido learns that Eri's kidnapper is none other than Joggi. Rei reveals that Joggi attacked his village, killing his kin while pretending to be Kenshido. Meanwhile, Joggi, wheezing from his scars, remembers how Kenshido defeated him in the past, destroying his body internally. Later on, one of Joggi's minions sees his real face, frightened beyond belief. Kenshido heads to Joggi's hideout, walking there with Rei. As they break through, a gigantic minion named Heart faces them first. Heart has a rubbery skin that cannot be broken by hard fist martial arts. Kenshido measures him up, only to create a massive crate on his stomach, obliterating him to pieces. The tandem goes on, ready to fight Joggi. The latter reveals that he took away Eri's eyesight, blinding her in the process. Joggi uses Eri to blackmail Rei, making him fight Kenshido in his stead. Kenshido successfully coaxes Joggi to a fair fight, fighting on top of a skyscraper rooftop. Joggi fights him back, using every underhanded tactic under the sun. As Joggi uses a massive gasoline fire to kill Kenshido, he reveals he was the one who poisoned Shin's thoughts. This infuriates Kenshido even further, which allows him to destroy the entire building they're on, burying Joggi to die under the fire and rubble. Kenshido approaches his older brother in training, killing him once and for all. The dying Joggi reveals that Yuria is with Shin in the city of Southern Cross, taunting him with his final breath. The sun. Poison Shin's thoughts. This infuriates destroy the entire building they're on, to die under the fire. The sun. To die under the fire. Though Rei successfully rescues Eri, she is now all but broken. Kenshido tries to heal her blindness and madness, telling him that it will take time to heal her fully. Lin and Bat then arrive, showing a seed growing from a pot. Meanwhile, Eri is still traumatized, unwilling to open her eyes. Lin, however, shows her a brand new flower, convincing her that there is hope in this dark age. Elsewhere, Reo, now a conqueror known as Kenno, King of Fists, has amassed a huge army. His massive retinue moves from place to place, expanding his domain by defeating rival warlords. Meanwhile, Yuria is in Southern Cross, treated with a life of luxury, living under the rule of Shin. He leads his own army, trying to buy her love with material objects. Yuria refuses Shin's gifts of affection, longing to be reunited with her true love, Kenshido. While Shin tries to tell her that Kenshido is dead, she continues to long for a new world covered in green. Her warlord lover turns down this thinking, believing Earth cannot sustain life anymore. Meanwhile, Kenshido and Rei are out camping, discussing the future of the world. Rei has big hopes for his ally, but Kenshido only wants to be with Yuria. Later on, Reo continues to fight rival warlords, fighting Kibadeo. While Kiba decimates Reo's army, he is no match for the warlord, dying from internal injuries. In Southern Cross, Shin is preparing to battle, ready to meet Reo on his warpath. Yuria coldly wishes him good luck, only to return to her apathetic state. As he gets ready, one of Shin's minions reports that Joggi lost to a man with 7 scars named Kenshido. Yuria overhears the conversation, which makes her attempt to sneak out of the city. She moves through the rabble of the city, seeing the destruction brought about by humanity and the dozens of remains from the war. Yuria witnesses a harrowing sight, full of death and destruction from a bygone era. As she comes out, Reo finds her and takes her captive. Rei-Oh directly challenges Shin to a fight to the death. Later on, Kenshido arrives at the desert right outside Southern Cross, only to find the city in flames and Shin's soldiers dead. Bodies litter the roads, with many lives snuffed out by Rei-Oh himself. Shin is still alive and prepares to fight Kenshido, now much weaker than he ever was. Regardless, Kenshido is too late, as Shin has already suffered a mortal wound from his encounter with Rei-Oh. Before dying, Shin tells Kenshido that Rei-Oh has taken Yuria captive. His rival is headed to Cassandra, the city of wailing demons. Shin perishes from his wounds, still holding on to his love for Yuria. Later on, Lin arrives at Cassandra along with Bat and Rei, where they witness Rei-Oh's massive army marching through its streets. The parade is expansive, cropping up dust and dirt as people call out to his name. Lin sees the intimidating visage of Rei-Oh, with Yuria being held by Rei-Oh's men during the parade. In Rei-Oh's dungeon, Yuria is held captive. Bat and Lin decide to infiltrate Cassandra Castle and confirm Yuria's existence. As they evade the guards, the two meet Yuria in her cell, who leads her with a plant grown from a seed Yuria gave to Kenshido before leaving. Later on, the plant catches Rei-Oh's attention, making him furious at the idea of hope in the wasteland. He immediately puts Yuria on a cross, sentencing her to a public execution the next day. During the execution, Rei challenges Rei-Oh, noting that the flower bloomed from the efforts of Kenshido, Yuria, and Lin. He prepares to do his best to fight, starting with Rei-Oh's minion, Oigur. Rei defeats Ihurt in no time, slashing him to ribbons. Rei then prepares to fight the King of Fists, ready to usher in a new era for Kenshido and Lin. Rei attacks Rei-Oh, fighting with everything he has but proves to be no match against the tyrant. Lin summons Kenshido, making him rush to Cassandra. Regardless, Kenshido arrives too late to stop Rei-Oh from inflicting a mortal wound on Rei. Rei dies a hero's death, using his last strength to warn Kenshido of the sheer power that Rei-Oh amassed. This infuriates Kenshido, letting him unleash his raging battle aura. Rei-Oh tries to anger him further, revealing the murder of their master, Ryu Ken. They fight with their full strength, shaking the earth and destroying most of Cassandra. Afro wakes in the middle of the night, with Gino concerned that his master is currently injured. Later on, the master bestows everyone their very own sword, helping the children graduate. Afro confirms that his master is truly the number 2, scheduling a duel later that night. The master and Afro prepare for a duel, with the former preparing him for a life of misery and pain. All the orphans try to stop the duel, discouraging their father and brother from fighting. At the same time, a band of brigands ambushes them, but the master prepares to mow down all the bandits by himself. The master runs over, cutting every single bandit. The orphans, however, distract him enough that some of the bandits get a hit in. The orphan boys start fighting the bandits back, but the sheer numbers are overwhelming everyone. The weaker boys die one by one, with Jino receiving a fatal wound and Atsuru passing out. Afro murders all the bandits, realizing that all his friends are now dead. Up to his last breath, Jino discourages his friend from pulling his blade against their master. Afro and the master trade blows, with Afro winning the headband. Jino becomes indignant by Afro's action, questioning if they were ever important to him. Jino falls onto a sheer cliff, vowing never to forgive his once sworn friend. We realize that Jino is the bare-headed man, modified by the Empty Brothers into a cybernetic monster, unable to stop his tears from flowing since the day he fell. Jino tries to land one last blow on Afro, only for Ninja to block it off with his back. His friend dies from the blow, reminding him to remember why he truly is here. Ninja disappears into the air, pushing Afro to fight. Jino tries to use a double-handed strike against Afro, filling every strike with hatred. He remembers the time when Darman, one of the Empty Brothers, recreates Jino, creating the perfect cybernetic fighter. Jino continues to overpower Afro with his extreme physical augmentations, remembering the first time he lives once again, recovering from his wounds while wandering the lands. Jino remembers all the lives he snuffed with his twin blades, cutting everyone into pieces, losing the principles he swore to live by. As he returns to their former dojo, he remembers the day Afro chose to kill their master, rekindling his hatred. He chooses to return to the Empty Brothers for the chance to kill Afro. As Jino continues to overpower Afro, both decide to end each other with one last blow. Afro overpowers his once brother-in-arm, ending his suffering once and for all. Afro moves forward, completing on his journey to the Senju Cannon. Atop Mount Shumi, he meets the true gunslinger, the current number 1. In his godly state, the gunslinger is now old and gaunt, but he's still powerful enough to be Afro's biggest challenge yet. As Afro bleeds, the gunslinger absorbs the former's life force, using it to power his own body. The gunslinger immediately starts shooting, now back in his prime due to Afro's blood. The gunslinger continues to lecture Afro, showing off all the challenges he ever killed, many of which held lower number headbands. Afro attacks head-on, with the gunslinger shooting off. Afro successfully cuts off both his arms, only to discover the gunslinger can grow a secret third arm carrying a short blade. However, Afro expected the attack he saw in his childhood, using Otsoru's metal comb to block the attack. He successfully beheads the gunslinger, but the decapitated head continues to lecture him, eventually showing that he can regenerate his head back on its neck. He then pierces Afro, much like the many challengers he ever had. He puts his body on a pike, ready to become God. However, the gunslinger misses, hitting Afro's hair instead. Afro immediately retaliates, cutting the gunslinger into pieces and putting all other challengers to rest. Afro Samurai gains the number 1 headband, clearing the sky of its overcast clouds and showing all the lives sacrificed in the name of the quest. Years later, Afro awaits on top of Mount Shumi, with Jino now challenging as the new number 2, wearing all the lower number headbands. As they go on and fight, Afro puts on his signature Yai stance, ready to fight his never-ending battle.